I'm Jilli Nel. I'm an international abstract artist. I do this as a full-time job. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and this happened to me probably, well, it's actually been going on for a couple of years, but I finally said no a year and a half ago. I came to the States 5 years ago. I'd fallen in love with a man who I thought was absolutely perfect. I came out here, and throughout the time of our 4-year marriage, I discovered that things were not as perfect as what they looked to be. It started off just by name calling, putting me down, building me up, putting me down, building me up, putting me down, using everything mentally and emotionally against me, telling me how much I'd messed up his life, telling me that I was the fault of all of his problems. And he would just drag me down into the dirt, basically. It then progressed onto him throwing things at me. He was a very big man, and throwing objects at me was probably one of his favorite things to do. That, and to smash furniture and bang on walls. All of these things were meant to intimidate me, which they did, and to scare me, and to try and make me back down. And it was power and control. It was all about control. Eventually, June last year, he was arrested for physically assaulting me, and my son is now 20, but my son and I have literally been through hell. Right after we got married, it was the emotional came in. I actually loved the man so much that I thought that this was just a flaw, and that things would get better, and if I tried harder, that things would be better. So basically it lasted for a whole marriage. It was from the beginning right up to the time that he was arrested, and then the divorce was put through. So we're talking 3.5, 4 years. I don't know, actually. It was a combination of everybody's help. It was a combination of everybody that came in. The police, safe home, my friends, my belief system, and the matter of that he'd already taken me down as far as he could take me. There was no lower I could go. I had to then step up, move on, get out, keep safe. What gave me the strength? Probably my son as well. Why do women not leave? Many reasons. What prevented me? I loved him. Sometimes we just fall prey to the fact that we love a person. We keep hanging on to that thought of things will get better. Financial. He had financial control over me as well. I was new to a country. I had nobody here, nobody else. And I loved him. That's why I didn't leave. The importance of people stepping in. When you're going through domestic violence and domestic abuse of any kind, you often yourself don't have the strength. You're blinded by fears, you're blinded by threats, you're blinded by the fact that you love that person, and you can't see it clearly. And you're thinking, because they've taken you to that level of the power and control that they do, and they made you feel like you're worthless, that thinking it keeps you there. It holds you there. And so people stepping in really can save someone's life, because often that woman or person themselves does not have the strength to make that choice of leaving like that. It takes other people to do it. I think people are scared. I think they don't want to get their hands dirty. I think that they're not sure themselves what to do. They're not sure themselves where to go. It's the awareness has not been made big enough. It hasn't been made loud enough for everybody to know, okay, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is how you help people. Most of the time people think it's a marriage problem. You shouldn't step in between husband and wife. They don't understand that it's actually a human problem. It's not just a marriage problem. That it is not their fault. We have spent years being made to believe that it is our fault. It is never your fault when someone picks up a hand to hurt you. Never. And there is help out there.
But I don't think that you can suffer something really traumatic and not have some symptoms of depression or anxiety or PTSD. PTSD, depression, anxiety, and unfortunately, a lot of times people are misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and a lot of times it's also if they are going to a place and they're not disclosing domestic violence or sexual violence, but it's often diagnosed. And sometimes, borderline personality disorder is something that's real, but a lot of times it's really just people having different thoughts because of kind of constantly being in this prison. Yeah, children definitely can have, and you hear that a lot. Parents will say, my children don't know because they were asleep. A lot of times the children aren't asleep, they're pretending to be asleep. And even if they aren't, there's a lot of things that they pick up on, and they pick up on the energy in the house and the energy between, you and your partner. But, a lot of times these kids are suffering in school, their grades, maybe acting out in terms of just getting in trouble at school, getting a lot of phone calls from teachers, anxiety, urinating in their bed, things like that are signs of either abuse themselves or witnessing domestic violence. I think just listening and not judging, not blaming. And I know that sometimes as a supportive person it can be really frustrating because you want them to, leave and get away, and just kind of having empathy that it's just really not that easy. There's a lot of different reasons why somebody stays, and the older you get, and if you have a family and there's finances involved and children involved, it's a lot more difficult. And so I think people can get frustrated with that, so just kind of watching yourself and your own frustrations and stepping back and kind of putting yourself in their shoes too, how it would be if somebody told you that your current partner was doing, was being violent to you, and you're like, no, but they're not. And also recognizing that a lot of times domestic violence is not physical. It's sexual, it's financial, it's emotional. And the emotional piece, if you talk to a lot of survivors, that's the part that, excuse me, one, it's harder to recognize, and it's harder to pinpoint. And it's also, it's not as validated, because people will say, well, they're just, having a mood, or they really didn't mean it that way. and there's a lot of excuses for that behavior.